So, very big welcome from Denby Dale Amateur Radio Club to its members and friends, and of course, in particular, to Anthony K8ZT, who is back here to give us a presentation. And I'm very impressed with Anthony's fortitude that this is going to be the first of four presentations across four time zones that he's giving today, which is some going. So, I'm glad we've got you first and not last, Anthony. So, Anthony offered I keep abreast of Anthony's website and his presentations, and I saw the one that you've done that you're going to give tonight on maps and charts for the radio amateur, and I thought what a very useful presentation that would be, because we all kind of fiddle around looking at what map or chart works for us, and we spot something on something like someone's written on a Facebook page or in an IO group somewhere, and we try it out, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So Anthony's done us a great big favor by giving us a presentation. So Anthony, I'm going to hand the microphone to you and just let you get on with it.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And I did not make a separate one, so this may seem a little bit US centric today, but there's plenty of charts, maps, and other resources in this. And I'm sure that if you have some by the end of the today that I don't have here, I will add them. So that's one thing that always happens. As usual, I'm always adding to my presentations. So I put in the chat. Did I send it though? Let's make sure I sent it. I did not send it. I put in the chat the link to today's presentation, tiny.cc/MCFAR, Maps, Charts for Amateur Radio. That'll give you the most up-to-date version at any time. I'll also have this available at the end if you want to shoot the QR code when we're all done here. But there's going to be plenty of homework for you, so you're going to need to get to the slideshow to be able to get to all the resources. Just like explorers for millennia, both new and veteran hams need maps and charts to find their way, stay on the path, and know more about their worldwide neighborhood. Maps are what got me interested in amateur radio as a youngster, and they really are the reason why I'm here today. I like geography, but realized I would never be able to visit all of the intriguing locations around the world. But as I learned about first broadcast radio DXing, then shortwave listening, and finally amateur radio, I saw a path to visiting the world via radio. Included in today will be a number of categories, including band plan charts, frequency allocation charts, radio maps, interactive maps, grid square maps, software and apps for mapping, radio cheat sheets and mini manuals, and some other operating aids that are not maps or charts. So let's start off with band plans. Band plans are basically a graphic representation of frequency ranges. They let us know where we can operate, what modes we can use there, and any limitation based on license class, such as power levels or modes that we're allowed to use. Now, many of you are probably familiar with the very popular ARRL band charts. You might not realize that they come in four varieties, including different black and white and color and sizes. And when you click on each of the links, you'll be able to see that resource. You can print these out. You can save them on your computer, whatever you'd like to do with any of the resources I'm showing today. Again, anytime you see this font, there won't be any underscore underneath it, but that means there's going to be a link. And almost anytime there's an image, you can click on that for a link to whatever the resource is. Now, I'm guessing most of you know about these four charts, but you might not realize that the ARRL also has what I refer to as their on-air vertical vision version of it, and it is a little bit different arrangement, again showing the US bands, but that is available for you. There's also a text-based reference describing each of the bands, and then there's also something called the Considerate Operator's Frequency Guide, which suggests which modes you might want to use and submodes on each of the frequencies. So even though you can operate radio on a wide variety of frequencies, you're going to have much more luck if you choose the portion of the band that's typically used for radio. There's a number of maps available for different types of licensing. And again, these are a little bit US centric, so I'm going to skip over these, but I do have a number of maps that show what privileges and what frequencies people can use. Sometimes they're distributed by amateur radio companies as swag. They sometimes include them when you make a purchase. Sometimes they're given away at rallies and other events, but there's a number of them out there. And I'm not going to click on every link today, or we would not have time to get through them all. Now, there's also information based on IARU region. I'm in region 2, but you're all in region 1, and this is the overall region 1 band plan. Now, there's variations based on each company in region 1, but this is just a general overview of typical allocations in region 1. And there are some drastic differences between region 2, region 1, and region 3, especially on the 40-meter band. With region 1 and 3, it ends at 7.2, whereas in region 2, it extends up to 7.3. So you might hear some stations up here at 7.3, but they're not in your privileges. They're in their license privileges, but not yours. So again, all of these charts, you need to make sure you're using the right one for your licensing. The region 3 band plan is a text-based band plan, but it's laid out in information for that, each of the frequencies. I also have the 4-meter European band plan, the RSG band plan, which of course would be something you might be interested in. And it's laid out a little bit different than AWRL ones. And you need to go under the online display of the UK bands, and then you choose the band you want. Pick 40 being we were picking out it earlier, and it will show the band plan information. And it's kind of hard to see this, but we can zoom in on it and see. Maybe we can zoom in on it. I guess it's not going to let me zoom in. There we go. No, it's not going to behave. I guess I need to use their zoom tools at the bottom. There we go. So you have the chart here, and it tells you what you can do on various bands. Japanese band plan. Again, there's some places where Japanese band plan doesn't match other areas. So if you're trying to work someone in Japan on 160, for example, a good portion of the 160 band is not available to the Japanese ham. So you need to know what portions are available if you're going to try and track down a Japanese station. So even though these band plans might not be your band plan, they'll give you a good indication of where you're going to be able to find your prey when you're searching for particular countries. Now, what this gentleman has done is he's actually taken the US band plan, shrunk it down so when you print it, it folds and fits into your wallet. I also have some band plans here for 2 meters and for 10 meters in the US. There's also repeater books available with repeater information. Again, this is going to be US centric. I don't think it has European repeaters in it. Never looked. We'll find out here in a moment. But on the right side here, they have all the different states in the US listed. And of course, they only have US band plan. So it's US band plan here. Now, we can even expand beyond amateur radio and go out into frequency charts that include all of the electromagnetic spectrum. So we become just a little dot on these, but they're sort of interesting. I use these quite often when I'm working with students in school, and I want to show them how the electromagnetic spectrum length varies for wavelength and for frequency, and what corresponds to the size of each of those waves. So here's a little chart showing all of the electromagnetic spectrum, basically all the way from being able to hear to light. So lots of information on that. There's also a UK frequency allocation chart I have here, and an ITU European frequency chart. Now, some antenna charts. These are charts that give typical lengths in feet and meters for antennas. And you can click on these links again, and it'll tell you, for example, if you want a 160 meter antenna, if you want it at the bottom of the band, or if you want it at the top of the band, you can see there's quite a difference in length. Basically about a 10% difference in length between the top and the bottom of the band. Whereas when you get up into the higher bands, the difference is very minor between the top and bottom of most of the bands. So just some information on antennas. I have this in a number of different formats. I also have random antenna lengths to avoid or to pick. So if you're doing an antenna that you don't want that's non-resonant, you want to make sure that you're not picking a frequency that's going to be difficult. And they have this neat little chart here that's color-coded. You pick which groups of bands you want to be able to tune with your non-resident antenna, and then you pick the wires that will allow you to do that. Also have some simple wire antenna diagrams. This site from VE3ELB has a lot of good information in it. It shows basically dipoles for inverted Vs, full wavelength loops, ground plane antennas with all of the different sizes and dimensions for them. Open feed line random length antennas. Another chart here from DJ0JP with a lot of information on building very simple and very, very effective open wire fed random length antennas. I'm going to close a few of my links here before I fill up the screen completely. Connectors. Even though it's wireless, we're constantly soldering and wiring things together to be able to operate. So I have some charts here that include mic and data plug information for a variety of common radios. If you want to be able to wire a new microphone, unfortunately, every manufacturer, for the most part, uses a different arrangement, chooses different pins for each of the things. So a little chart like this can be very helpful. Here's 3 types of Kenwood mic plugs, 3 types of ICOM mic plugs and audio wiring, 4 types of Yaesu connections. So again, this information can help you rewire that microphone, or if you need to feed audio into a radio from another source other than the microphone, let you know which connections you need to use. There's also another chart here from another organization that again has multiple wiring charts. They have a few more radios this time, and they have including U.S. citizens band radios, but there's also a number of different ones here. And they also have some of the internal wiring for some of the different mic brands. Coax connectors. This is simply a chart to help you identify what you're dealing with. Most of us know this, but if you're just starting out and someone talks about an end connector, you might wonder what that looks like. So here's the 2 different types of main end connectors. Now with the SMA connectors and the TNC, not only do we have the standard ones, but we also have what are referred to as RP, or reverse polarity. In other words, they're set up differently, they screw in the opposite direction than the standard ones. So pretty much with modern HTs nowadays, we have 1 of 4 different SMA connectors on top of them. So your chances are about 1 in 4 of finding the right one if you don't pay attention to what you have. So this chart can be very helpful for you to figure out what type of connector you need. I also have one here that gets away from amateur radio a little bit, but gets into computer data connections, which include all the USB cables and many other cables, video connectors, and audio connectors. And again, this chart can be zoomed in on, and this is actually a rather large chart. It's just shrunk down to fit into there. This is an IARU region map. Now, in addition to the radio specific maps I'm talking about, if you're interested in maps like I am, I have a web page that I put together originally for use with schools, but now that I'm retired, I still just maintain it on my website, and it has information on maps and charts. But at the bottom of the page, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong link. That's the amateur chart. The other one is the that is the amateur charts. I'll get to the other maps in a moment here. But from this chart, you can see that there's a link to it right here that takes you out to my general geography links and other map tools. CQ and ITU zone maps. Now this ICOM link was broken before, and I need to fix it. I still haven't been able to get the right link here, so I got to fix that. It was a very nice map. Now, Hamwaves produces a number of these, and you can buy these as paper maps. You can simply use the image here. This has a map with all of the zones, both ITU and CQ zones. Now, the CQ zones are easier to pick out because they're in red and they're outlined. The ITU zones have a little number, and they don't really show you the borders very well. So it's not great for ITU zones, but it is good for the CQ zones. And it also has all the prefixes for the various countries. And at the bottom of the chart is a table that shows the prefix, the country name, the continent, the CQ zone, and the ITU zone for each of the entities in the world. So that is a very map from Hamwaves. This is an IARU region map, which I already showed you. The QZ11 maps are both the same. They're just in different formats. One is a PNG map, and the other one is a zipped bitmap. So they're both the same graphic, just different formats. And again, we have CQ zones displayed on these. Here's another map. This is the Cartier DXCC map. It has time zones on it. In addition, it has has the ITU regions on IARU regions on it, and it has the CQ zones on it. Now, for the ARRL, there's worked all states maps, which is very common. Most of the time at rallies in the US, you'll see the ARRL representative handing these out. But here's one that you can have for yourself without having to go to anywhere or to buy it. They also have the ARRL divisions, which are different than the states and different from the call sign regions, each of the divisions. And then the sections are subdivisions of that. And you can find that information on either the web page or the section map. So you can see on the section map, we have the distinction in Ohio of being the largest population with a single section in our state. California has 6 sections, Washington has 2, New York has 4, but in Ohio, we only have 1. So we actually have the largest section by population. I have a section list if you like to operate contests where they're using ARRL sections and or RAC sections. This shows them by the number that is typically in the call sign. So the one call district would include New England and Connecticut and et cetera. It has the ARRL section name and the abbreviation. Same thing with the Canadians. And then on the other side of this, when you flip it over, this has them in alphabetical order. And this is something that I always distribute to different groups for use with our ARRL field day in July. The Koisakov maps, Russian map, very interesting. This one is in Cyrillic, so it might be a little bit hard to read some of these if you're not familiar with that for the different sections. But the nice thing is you can tell what part of Russia a station is based on their prefix and the number and then the first letter in their suffix. So if we have a UA9 or an R9 that has the first letter in the suffix is O or P, it would be in this section of the map. If we have a UA4 or an R4 that has a J in it, it would be in this section, D, et cetera, et cetera. So you can zoom in on these and see where the various call signs are. So their call signs are based on their location. I also have radio map of Europe. This is a nice map. I have one of these in the background. If you look over my shoulder, you can see one of these that I have. It has grid squares, which is really nice. It also, for the countries that base their prefixes on the regions of the country, it has them divide out. So you can see if you're in an SM2 that you're working, it's in northern Sweden, whereas an SM7 would be in southern Sweden. But for countries like Norway, where they're not based on the location, of course, they're not shown on the map because they don't exist that way. So again, this is a rather useful map. And this is one of my favorites, actually, because it lets you get a grid square and prefixes for many countries. Now, the Ham Atlas Call Signs of Russia has a very similar map to the one we saw before, but this shows you the basic breakdowns by region. And then it has a chart that shows you both in English and Russian Cyrillic alphabet what the name of the different location is and how the call sign is configured. It also shows you which region of the country it's in. And then finally, on this particular thing, our last Russian resource, this is from Wikipedia, but it has a great resource here because it has all the names in English script that you can easily read. And there's also links to go out to them for more information. So you can find out about each of the oblasts and different political divisions in Russia by simply clicking on the link. So you just look at the number and the first letter and the suffix, and you can figure out where it's at. Now, I was looking for something like this and couldn't find it. I was looking for a Canadian prefixes list and map. So I actually created one myself, being I couldn't find one. So basically this has a map that shows each of the Canadian prefixes based on the province. And then it also has a chart. So by the way, the rarest prefix in Canada is VE0, because VE0s are stations that are operating only maritime mobile in international waters. So I think I've worked 2 out of my 115,000 contacts that are VE0s, but this little chart gives you a quick idea. And remember, of course, there's VA5 and VE5, both for the same province. There are some special call signs that they use occasionally, but most of the time they're using the V call signs. It also has the CQ zone, ITU zone, and the RAC section listed on this map. Canadian band plan. This information, a lot of this is from the RAC, but it shows you the Canadian breakdown of the band plan. Close a few of these. I told you there's going to be a lot of homework. You have to visit every one of these sites. Mexican call signs. It's sort of interesting. We forget about the fact that there's really only 3 numbers that are used for most of the Mexican call signs, XE1, XE2, and XE3, and they're sort of weird the way they have them laid out. The central part is XE1, the northern part is XE2, and the southern part is XE3, and Baja California is XE2, and then for the islands off the coast, some of those use different prefixes like XE9. Just a chart here comparing the US and Canadian band plans. I won't go there, but I just do want to show you this gentleman, VE2YYQ, has put together a number of things, both in English and French, comparing band plans. He also has some of the resources I was showing you from other sources. And he has everything that he has is in both English and French. Hamwaves has a website with a bunch of resources on it. We'll go into some of the individual ones, but this first one I'm going to show you is not from Hamwaves. This is the IOTA, Islands on the Air World Map. It's actually a map and a DX cluster both on the same page. So it shows you recent cluster posts for various islands around the world, but you can also zoom in and find out information on the map and get both the name and the IOTA number for that particular location. You can also search for them based on DXCC. You can also search for them based on continent. And you can zoom in and see anything you want to see. With islands, of course, quite often you have to zoom in quite a bit, but there we can see the AF012 off the coast of Africa. Now, this is the Hamwaves, which I got ahead of myself on. This is their website, and they have a number of maps here, ITU zones. They have a nice black and white. It's a little bit stark, but it shows you the basic information you need. But they also have a CQ zone map that you can jump into any of the different ones you want. You move your mouse over there. It's kind of hard to see in this, but the cursor up in the upper left-hand corner, wherever you put your mouse, it'll show you the grid square, the ITU number, and the CQ zone number. I don't know of any way to make this show up any bigger, but it's up here in this corner, and it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I zoom in, if this will change. Yeah, there we go. So you can see that when I move my mouse over these areas, it changes this information up in the upper corner here. CQ prefixes, they have a prefix map and many more maps. They also have some other things such as line of sight coverage maps, Canadian provinces, Mexican, etc. The Mexican one is a little bit different map than I showed you before. This one's interactive. When you click on any of the areas, it'll show you what the call sign area is. Now, let's look at some other interactive maps. The first one is dxmaps.com, and this is a map that's used for spotting. This is used quite a bit by VHF, UHF users, and it's worldwide, but it's also available for HF. So quite often you'll see this referred to with VHF and UHF, but there is a worldwide version of it also. And you can see what activity is going on right now. If we zoom in here a little bit, okay, let's get the right zoom this time. So right now you can see the GM4 UYE is working DK8NE in the middle of Germany, and he looks like he's working everyone all the way up to Sweden and all the way down to for Oscar down in the Balkans. The next one is a DX view map, and this clicks through each of the different zones, but you can also choose one individually. So right now it's showing you the MUF for 7 megahertz, but we can click on any of these and see, for example, this is the MFU on the supporting 21 megahertz. This is a very similar map from KG2G. He actually has the MUF map here, and he has a color code on the bottom to show you where the maximum usable frequency is based on the color. But he also has this data where you can see the data in a table form for the MFU, and he also has the FO2, F2 data information. Now, this World Fact Book from the CIA has nothing to do with amateur radio, but if you're interested in amateur radio, you're probably interested in the countries you work, and it has detailed information about almost all the countries in the world. So you can simply click on the link and get photos, maps, flags, population, time zones, all sorts of information for them. Some countries have a lot more than others. And again, you can use this chart, or you can simply search for one. There's 262 countries, so not quite as many as we have, but we have some what I've been referred to as amateur radio fake countries. But you can go in here and you can either jump ahead by letter and see what's available in Z, etc. The Index Mundi is very similar. It gives you statistics and other information on what happened here. Do we have a bad link? Let's see that. Here we go. It gives you information on population, languages, geography, business, all sorts of things. So both of these two are great places to find out more information about the countries you're working. Now, we're going to get to something that many of you probably have used, and that's PSK Reporter. PSK Reporter is, first of all, a little deceptive because the name came out when PSK was very popular, but it's used for FT8 and FT4 spotting. It can be also used for other modes too, but those are the main two. So you can either put your call sign in and see what stations you're hearing you around the world. Now, I have not been on today, so let me put in a call sign that I heard earlier. I know they were on. This is the W1AW Portable 1 in Maine. So you can see all the stations around the world. Now, these are not stations they made contact with. This is a real-time report of how well they were received. And the way this works is people are using WSJTX for FT8 and FT4. There's a little button you check. Let me show you where that's at. In case you do this, you want to check that little button. That will automatically send your data whenever you're receiving. I don't have the radio on. Let's just close up. How do I get to do it without the radio working? We'll see here. Okay, so in the settings, under the tab reporting, you want to make sure this box that says network services enable PSK reporter spotting is checked. That way, whenever your radio is on and your computer's on, you'll be decoding stations and automatically sending information to this. And as you can see down at the bottom, there's been over 39 billion spots recorded on this. So it's a great tool for propagation. Even if you don't work FT8 and FT4, all you need to know is someone in your area that does. You can put their call sign in and see where they're being heard around the world that day, and that gives you a good indication of where the band should be open to. So W1AW Portable 1, 7 minutes ago was being at 0 dB into the middle of Central Europe. They were down in Australia 7 hours ago at 15 dB. So obviously Central Australia is not open right now for them, but they were being heard out in Hawaii 15 minutes ago with a rather strong signal. So this is a great way, and I actually have written a document for my on my website about using this as a propagation tool. Another interactive tool that you can use to help you with propagation is the vocap online tool for amateur radio. It lets you put in 2 station locations, and you can then see what the likelihood of propagation is between those 2 locations. So let's down here and get a G, and we'll pick another one. We'll pick a. So it gives you information on the propagation path between 2 points around the world. It also gives you the azimuth to point at and other things. So that's the vocap one. QRZ.com DX is DX Atlas is one of 2 resources on QRZ that a lot of people don't know about. This is simply an atlas of the world. You pick the country you want, and it gives you maps and information on that particular country. You can also get to this directly from the QRZ site by going into resources and then going to the DX Country Atlas right here. The second one that's available is the Grid Mapper. The Grid Mapper lets you put in any grid score in the world down to the 6 characters, hit the set button, and it'll show you your subgrid square, and it will also show you all the other stations in your area. What's the grid square there for one of you? If someone could give me their grid square.
India Oscar 93 Bravo Oscar.
So you can see now that we can see the hams that are in that area. We can also see the border of that particular subgrid, and we get information. So it's a great way. You can simply click on these and it will go to the QRZ page of that person. So it's a good way to find out who your ham neighbors are. Or if you're going to be visiting an area, you can always put in the grid square and see who's going to be in that area. So again, you can access this from the QRZ site by going to resources and then going to the grid mapper. The next one, I have a whole half a talk on this particular one. It's called the Reverse Beacon Network. The Reverse Beacon Network is really neat because it lets you transmit, and then stations around the world will pick up your CW signal and tell you how strong you are if they're being received there. So the other day I was using the W1AW Portable 8. I haven't been on the air with myself for a while in CW, and you can see that, oh, I got to change the time frame. I'm at 10 hours. I need to make that 10 days. So you can see yesterday I was transmitting on 14.045 with the W1AW Portable 8, and I was being heard by K3M, K5EM, etc. And it tells me what my signal strength was like, how fast I was sending, and gives me information this way. You can also do it by looking at the stations that are in the Reverse Beacon Network and seeing who they're hearing. So there's DE for that portion. So I know a station that's in the network called K3LR. I can see all the stations that they're hearing at their location. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing any there right now, but maybe maybe he has it off the air. Oh, because I had this second thing in there. Let's fix it. There we go. So this will show me all the stations that that particular location is seeing. So the Reverse Beacon Network is a great way. Now to be heard by the Reverse Beacon Network, you either need to send CQ and then your call sign, or test and then your call sign. And even if you don't operate CW, just program that into a CW memory on your radio, hit one button, it'll send that out, and you'll get an idea where you're being heard around the world. The next resource is finding your grid. These are all things for finding your grid square or your geolocator area based on information. I have a document here that talks about brief history of the Maidenhead grid square system, how it works, and some of the resources you can use to find things. But I also have some of them listed here. So you can go to each of these and you can find out based on your call sign. It'll show a map with your information and your neighbor's information. So let's do G4 UFZ. Oh, let's put it in Oh, didn't come up, Roger. I'm not sure why. I think this is everywhere in the world. Let me try another one. Wonder if this is US only. I don't know. So the grid squares work, but I don't think all the call signs work for the whole world. You guys are going to check that out for me. Here's another one that you can simply put in your address or your postal code or your grid square, and we'll show you that information. So I'll put in my postal code here. And it will show you the area where your postal code is at. This tool will let you map your log information. You can export it from your log as an ADIF file, and then it will plot it on a map. Wait a second, why did it say none found? Oh, because the date has changed. We'll come back to that in a second. Grid Mapper is a tool that I showed you already from qrz.com. Soda Maps is a tool that you can find summits on the air around the world, but you can also find grid squares and other resources from here. So if you go up to the top and turn on grids, it'll display the grids on the map, and then you can zoom in and you can see the grids, subgrid squares, et cetera, et cetera. So you can scroll down here just where we were at before. But you can also find the summits that are in your area or the summits in any other area around the world. Let's see if this showed up yet. Nope, still working. WG7JG is another grid mapping tool that lets you put your information on a world map, either Google Maps or Google Earth, and it will show you everywhere you've worked. You export an ADIF file, and you can map all of your contacts on the world map. Still fetching. Okay, let's wait for it to fetch. Okay, work grids is very similar. It will let you do a map showing you all the grids you worked. So all of these on this page are very similar. There's also a number of phone apps available, both Android and Apple. So if you're out in the field and you want to find out what grid square you're in when you're operating portable, you can use any of these tools to be able to do that with. And this takes you out to the Android apps, but there's a number of them out there. This page are not amateur radio maps. These are all information about Google Maps and Google Earth. Now you might say, well, how is that helpful? When I'm operating portable, I use a tool in Google Maps that lets me measure the distance between two trees I see on the map, and it tells me how far apart, even if I've never been to that area before. So I always do this before I'm going to operate portable. If I know the address I'm going to be at, I can look up details on the map, also tell elevation and tell other information. So these can be very helpful on how to measure distances, how to find elevations on Google Maps, and how to measure distance and elevation both. So this is all information on using Google Maps and Google Earth. I have a whole bunch of information on weather maps. This is one of my favorites. It's a lightning map. We're supposed to get some storms this evening, and this will show you storm activity. And notice that we already have one north of me on Lake Erie. I'm right here. And fortunately, all this is going past me on the north, but there's some to my west here. So each time there's a new lightning strike, it shows up on the map and gives you an idea of how far out that is being affected. So it's called lightningmaps.org. And again, you can see when we zoom out where the activity is around the world. And it looks like there's just a few off the coast, off the west coast down towards Plymouth, but that looks like about it. Europe looks pretty quiet right now, but not down in the central Mediterranean. National Weather Service maps in the U.S., flood and hazard zones, national risk maps, storm trackers, fire and smoke maps, etc. There's also information on using WinLink, emergency communications protocol. There's a couple presentations here from the Rat Pack group. You can watch the YouTube videos on using mapping tools within WinLink. Now, this is one of my favorite ones until I don't have a beam anymore with my tower coming down now, and I'm still reaching over for my rotor, but this lets you generate an azimuth map based on your location. You can either put in your postal code or you can put in your grid square. Let's put the grid square. I know that always works. Let's do it that way. And it will generate a great circle map based on your exact location to give you an idea of what things look like. So from here in the US, I need to go about 48 degrees to get to you guys. But if I want to go to Australia, I need to go between 260 on the East Coast to 320 on the West Coast. So it's a great way to quickly generate a grid square map. And I don't remember exactly what the grid was, but I'll try and get close to it. Let's see, IO93. That was close, but it's not exactly where we were at. But it'll give you one close enough to the area. Okay, come on. Why are you not working? There it is. So here's one centered on grid square IO93. There's a similar one from OK2PH. It does a very similar type of map, but it gives you the prefixes for the various entities around the outside perimeter of it. And again, you can put in any QTH you want. And it'll redraw the map for that location. There's a third one that's very similar, but this one doesn't require you to enter anything, because what it does is it looks at your computer's IP address and tries to guess where in the world you are based on your IP address. And from that information, it then generates a chart that shows you what direction to aim your beam for each of these locations. Some other software, Aphids software has something called DX Atlas, which has a whole lot of different mapping tools in it. Mapability from EI8IC, you can purchase the program and use a lot of things, or you can go to the website and actually do a lot of things from the website. So if you go to the amateur radio and then you go to the information along here, you can see a lot of different amateur radio maps. If we want to see CQ zones, we can click on this. It shows the CQ zones of the world. This is actually my desktop that I use on my computer. You can see prefixes, grid locators, AWRL sections, etc. Let's do a prefix map. Let's pick, I don't know, Eastern Russia. So it'll show us each of the prefixes, and we can zoom in for more detail on them. So that's EI1IC mapability, but the program you can purchase is called the Mapper Relay program, and you can do a lot more things with it than the website. DX Lab Suites has maps in it. Simon's World Map is a nice map for a gray zone in it. These are all pieces of software that are designed to analyze your log and post it onto Google Earth or Google Google Maps. The standard it's used is called KML, and once you generate a KML file, you can upload it. This is some software that's good for state QSO parties in the United States, county maps for each of the states, also some software that works with N1MM. Then this other one, if you just want to find a county anywhere in the United States, you can simply type in the county name, and it will show you where that county is at in the world. Actually, it found that city instead of the county. but you can move this around and you can see all the counties. This map is actually designed not for amateur radio, but for a group that called the Mad Mob. And what they do is they try and visit all the counties in the United States as opposed to just talking to them on the radio. I'm sorry, Mob Rule, not Mad Mob. U.S. amateur radio prefixes, repeater books. Again, these are going to be pretty much U.S. oriented, but these are all apps available for Android that are out there. Some cheat sheets and manuals. These are cheat sheets, instructions for using various radios, a lot of VHF, UHF radios. Here's one on the 857 that shows you the basic information you need. And these are the kind of things that I always make sure I have in my Go box. I print a lot of these charts out because these are very helpful to have in a Go box, especially if other people are going to be operating the radio. A quick guide to the radio showing you where all the controls are at. So 857, VX8, FT60, Bofang, but another Bofang one, another Bofang one. This site, Milklore, has a bunch of VHF, UHF, mostly import radios on it, and you can click on any of these and get information on that particular model. Here's the cheat sheets for the KX3, the KX2, and the K3S. Again, I have this in the lid of my Go box, so I can easily tell what each of these things mean. Then I have some operating aids, including CW templates for example CW, both from the CW QSO group and the Long Island CW group. Numbers in 13 languages. A little chart you can print out and put on your desktop. Mostly important is the 0 through 9, of course, for call signs, but you might want some of the other numbers also for other purposes. Ham Atlas, here we showed this one. This is the call signs in Russian. There were sections I showed that. Q codes. This K5IJB site has not only CW operating tips, abbreviations, pro signs, punctuation, Q symbols, and radiogram information all in one site that you can easily get to. I have some other abbreviation links here. This group from Mount Diablo has just a number of different operating aids, grid square locators, Morse code, phonetic alphabet, Q signals, Greek alphabet for some reason, and a bunch of other things. Some miscellaneous shack aids that are available from a variety of sources. Calculating Doppler frequencies, grid maps, service manuals, just a collection of things. Time zone information. It takes a little while to load that one. We'll come back to it in a second. And then I also have some component guides. Resistor color code calculator. You can simply take this chart, put in the colors that you see on your resistor, and it will tell you what the value is. And it shows you that's 140 mega ohm resistor with a 0.5 tolerance. You can also do 5-band and 6-band resistors. There's also something similar for inductors with inductor color codes and a capacitor calculator tool that's available on this page. Smith chart tools. I'm not going to go in and open each one of these, but there's a number of different Smith chart tools. And then this is a web page, but it has a lot of very valuable information if you're a DXer. It has what are called announced DX operations, and it shows you upcoming DX operations, but there's also a contest one. So if you want to see what stations are going to be active in a contest, you can click on this and see the listing of each of the stations. This little chart from DX Expeditions comes out monthly, and it's updated once a month, and it shows you the DX expeditions that are going to take place during the current month. So E51D is almost done. They got another week, or another couple days, only 3 more days. I also have all these links from this, most of these links, I should say, in a spreadsheet format and an article format if you want to run it in a local newsletter. And this is the link for the whole presentation, tie.cc, MC FAR, And this QR code can be shot with your phone, and you'll get that. I also put this in the chat, so you'll have it that way. And that'll get you to all the resources. So I'll go ahead and take questions, comments, suggestions. If I missed anything, tell me now or send me an email with a link to your favorite tool that I forgot or map that I forgot, and I will add that to my repertoire. This is where I run 64 gigs of RAM in my computer.
Well, this
So I
is
could,
just great. This a lot. Whole lot of tools I didn't know about. One of my favorites is the I suppose you covered it, but it's the there's a ham map program where you put in a call sign and it shows all your neighbors, and
yes,
that's
it
pretty
was in the
interesting.
grid locator tool on qrz.com.
Oh, okay, there too.
Yes.
Yeah, I discovered that there was some. I live in the University District in Seattle, and I discovered that unknown to me, right across the alley, there was a ham living, some student, I think, although he's moved by now. But it's interesting. So thanks a lot. This was great. By the way, all the Denby Dale presentations are available later on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
You can go back and watch. How many have I done now, Nick? I think this is about a half a dozen. No, I've done more than a half dozen because I did 3 with Dennis alone.
You did, yeah. You've done a fair number, Anthony.
I've passed the 400 mark with presentations for clubs and groups around the U.S. and the UK and Canada. Other questions, comments, suggestions? I want to get that last slide up here. And also, I forgot to show you this, but I also have a link here that'll get you to all my presentations. And if your local club would like a presentation, I'd be happy to do one for you. I have about 35 or 40 different topics. And on this, you can see the topic names, if the slideshow is available, if there's a recorded video of it. Some of them have multiple videos, but I only have one link. And then if there's any other resources that go with it and the date that I put it together originally. So there's just
Do you
a
have
few.
a link to all of those the charts and things that you've showed us?
Yes, that's at the tiny.cc/mcfar. I'll put that in the chat again.
Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. This is it right here.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just pulled that up, Anthony, and I realize also that you have a PDF download of it.
Yes, I do. But the problem with the PDF download is fine. But remember, when I find a new one tomorrow, I'll add it, and the new one doesn't go into your PDF after you download it. So if you need to use a PDF, that's fine. But just remember to check back periodically and get a new version of it when I update. Because I'm always updating. As you can see, I do a few presentations, and I'm always adding information. So like tonight, my 9 p.m. US, which will be 0100 UTC, is going to be Youth and Amateur Radio Part 2 that I'm going to be doing. But the first one is recorded, and you can watch the first one. But this is the slideshow. So when you click on the link, it'll give you the slideshow. What I haven't got around to doing yet, and I'm probably going to do, is eventually on this page here where the link is at, I'll also put if there's a video that you can get. But you can also get links in most cases to the videos from this page. Now, there isn't one here now, but there will be because it's being recorded the last 2 weeks. Other questions, comments? And again, if your local club would like a Zoom presentation or WebEx or Google Meet or whatever type of electronic presentation you like, I'm happy to do them for anyone.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. That was really interesting. I've just found a map you've not got. How about that? One map you've not got. I've just
okay. I need that link then. Okay.
Okay. It's a bit
Oh, I know
It's
what
a bit
this map is.
obscure.
No, I know what this map
Yeah.
is. This map is to use
you couldn't
IP
find me early-
phones
you couldn't-
around the world.
That's right. You
Yeah,
couldn't
this-
find me on the other one. You can find me on that one.
Let me see if I can remember his call sign. ODK, I think it is. I think I got the call sign wrong here, but so this is the ham. I'll add this to my sets of maps and charts. Thank you. Anyone else have any maps that I missed?
It's pretty comprehensive, is that?
I've posted another lightning map into the chat earlier,
Oh, okay.
so you might want to have a look at that. It probably does the same thing as the one you had.
I'm going to save the chat here, so I got the chat saved. By the way, I'm sure that you guys all know this, but if you don't, anytime, if you open up the chat window down at the bottom, there's 3 little dots next to the smiley face, and you can save the chat from any Zoom session you're in. It saves it in a subdirectory in your My Documents folder, in a subdirectory called Zoom, in a subdirectory with today's date. And it saves it as a text file. So if you're ever in a Zoom session, they're putting a lot of links or other information, instead of having to copy it all manually, you can simply open the chat and click on the 3 little boxes at the bottom. Now, one of the problems with Zoom is, though, it won't show anything previous to when you joined the session. So if you join partway through, you won't see the chat retrospectively. You only see the chat that's been done since you've been logged in. Okay, I'll check on that, Eric, about the VE map. Any other questions, comments?
I'm just looking for the. I've just opened the presentation. I'm just looking for. You had something on repeaters in the USA earlier somewhere, which I'm trying to find.
Yes,
but,
it is very close to the beginning. You know, the trick is just do a control when you're in the slideshow.
Yeah.
I actually won't do it. I was thinking it would do it, but it doesn't do it because you're on one page. So it's right here. This slide that's not the web page. That's the Android app. It is right here under VHF UHF band plans. It's slide number 18.
Okay. That might come in handy. I'm going to go to the US in later in the year, and I'll be taking my handheld with me. But I'm not quite sure how much radio I can actually how much I can actually play radio, because
get the Android app though too, because get the phone app too, because one of the things with almost all these in the States, the vast majority of them have PL tones, or not PLs,
CTCSS tones.
Yes. So you're going to need all those to get into the repeaters, and those are all listed here also. So if you go into each of the states and you look at the information, now some of these are set up a little differently. It just depends on the particular one, on the particular state you go into.
Well, there's going to be loads of them. So,
but the Android app works very well also.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? If you're just getting started and you've not seen all the presentations I've done for Denby Dell, probably one of the best ones is the Beginner's Guide to HF with Dennis W6DQ and myself. We did a 3-part series. By the way, Nick, we've done part 4. So if you want us back to do part 4, we can make plans for that. We did a part 4.
And that would be good. People very much, I mean, not just beginners, Anthony, but people that have been around a few years really appreciated those 3 parts you did, because there was something for everyone in that, however long you've been playing radio. So,
and number 4 is, here, let me find it real quick here. I don't have a UK version yet, but Dennis and I will be happy to do one. In that takes a little while to load because there's a couple hundred slides there. This is not the way to do it. But so week 4, we talk about establishing your HF presence, expanding your scope of operation, bands and modes you use, competitive activities, joining groups, and keeping up with amateur radio news. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share.
Brilliant, Anthony. That was really good. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Very, very useful links in there that we'll all be dipping into when you when we've signed off this. I can guarantee half the audience will be going back through your presentation to save for themselves some of those links because they found them particularly interesting. So yeah, thank you very much. That was absolutely superb. I have to say, Anthony, your videos have been very popular, and I think, if I remember rightly, apart from the Beginner's Guide to HF, the other one that has had a lot of views is your presentation you did some time ago on FT8.
Okay, very good.
Which proved very popular and got a few people started playing with FT8 as well.
My most popular one right now on YouTube is one I did for the Ratback group called "Your 10 Worst Antennas and How You Can Do Better." So you guys can look that up. The Ratpack group is ratpac.us. And if you go to the YouTube and just do Ratpack and then put radio after it, you'll get us. And we do a program every Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday nights are general amateur radio information, and Thursdays are on emergency communication. And they're all free. The time is not very convenient for you all because we do them at 01 UTC during the summer and 02 UTC during the winter. Let me try this again. Grab the right. You can notice that my desktop is the EI8 IC maps. So Ratpac, ratpac.us. And there's a chart on the page here that shows all of our upcoming and previous sessions. We have over 320 recorded now. So for example, the one last week was my youth and amateur radio. And we also had one on deep dive into WinLink maps and filters. And when you go on YouTube, you'll see that. Let me stop this. When you go on YouTube and do Ratpac radio, you can go to our channel, and there's a variety of playlists and videos available.
Superb, Anthony. Thank you very much indeed. I think I can see from the audience nodding that everyone appreciates it. So can we show our appreciation the normal way to Anthony? Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you very much.
And good luck with your upcoming presentations this evening. So thank you very much indeed for coming back. And I will probably take up your offer and bring you and Dennis back to do part 4 of your Beginner's Guide to HF, because a number of people were inspired by your previous ones and started operating on HF and having more fun with it. So definitely be worth following that one through. So thank you.
We'd be happy to. Dennis and I had a great time doing that.
Yeah, it was great. It was nice to have the two-parter between you and Dennis. It was very good indeed. So. Okay, I'm going to hit stop record, so thank you for that.